Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, February 16th. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. Leading a big city force in time of major shifts in law enforcement, what he's doing to keep neighborhoods safe. It's time to go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding.
And I'm Charmin Sacchetti. And with us at the table is Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox, the leader of BPD since his appointment by Mayor Michelle Wu in 2022. Earlier in his career, he walked the beat, so he hasn't always been in this great suit. He's also a native of Boston. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The suit fits, by the way, so that's really good. Very good. Well, thanks for joining us. So
yes, I am.
let's start with what's on the news every night. And video of ICE, and I'm going to use the word raids. I don't know if that's an appropriate word, but I want to start with BPD and ICE. Your officers are forbidden by state and local law from carrying out immigration enforcement. That's the law. So in recent weeks, federal immigration authorities have been seen taking people into custody, and they're also obeying the law. So is this, it presents as a conflict? Is it a conflict?
In the Boston Police Department has pretty defined rules set by the law, and we abide by the law here in the state. And we don't, enforce civil detainers regarding federal immigration law. It's defined here in the state, and that's just how it works.
Well, you've lined up the state. How do you navigate the difference between the state, the city of Boston, and Washington, D.C.?
And so I can't, it's hard enough to run the Boston Police Department. I could never fathom, running outside of that. So I do know this. Our officers are, abide by the laws here in the state and certainly the city ordinance in the city of Boston. We don't have authority to enforce federal immigration law. And so from our perspective and what we tell anyone who comes to visit our city, lives in our city, is that we don't care about your immigration status. But what we do care about is, are you a victim of crime in our city, or are you a victimizer, right? So we will hold you accountable for that. And that doesn't matter what your immigration status is.
And that's the big question, right? Because people are seeing these images of these arrests across the country and also in our state as well. And what would you say to someone who maybe doesn't support the Trust Act, who maybe doesn't think the state's laws are protecting them? What would you say to those folks?
I would probably just say that understanding the laws here in the state is that we just don't have authority to enforce federal law here, according to our state laws. And these are civil detainers. What people don't understand is there's a difference between criminal, warrants and civil detainers. Any criminal warrant, if someone's warranted outside the state and it's a warrant involved, we will absolutely enforce it. Right. We will enforce federal ones if it's a warrant involved, because we're almost mandated to. But civil detainers are the defining line that we just don't do that because it's immigration related.
So let's talk about money, because money is an important lifeblood to everything that's done. We've talked about the impact of cuts in, for example, federal funding with Speaker Mariano right in that very chair last week here on OTR. So are you worried about potential cuts, and how big an impact to D.C. dollars do they play in your department?
Boston is one of the safest major cities in the country because of the partnership we have with the public, the partnerships we have with other law enforcement people here in the city, and then, quite honestly, the partnerships we have with the federal government and all our federal partners. Some of the most major complex investigations that we were able to do in the city was through the help of federal law enforcement, whether it's FBI, DEA, ATF, all the multiple federal law enforcement agencies. And so the influx of resources that they provide for us are tremendously important to keep the city safe. We could not be safe as we are without the help of the federal government in that way. And so they are a partner of ours. And so that being the case, I don't know why that would be undone. But when it comes to financing and income flows into our city, I can only control what we can control, whether it's the city council when we go through a budget process every year, or however the ways in which people talk about funding the police department. What I can control is make sure that we are effective, that we're efficient with what we have, that we use our resources as well as we can to deal with the issues of the day. And that's what we really try to do and strive for.
All right. And so since his inauguration last month, President Trump, he has taken aggressive steps to end DEI programs across government. You've built your brand on community policing, and you often say, you know, this is the safest, Boston is the safest city in America, right? Major city in America right now. So how important is having officers who reflect the community? How important is that to have them on the force?
I think it's tremendously important. Boston is a very diverse city, and so we need people to come on our job.
Minority majority city.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point is the city is very diverse from all walks, all religions,
right.
all parts of life, and we want our department to reflect that because we deal with all parts of our city.
Well, the president talks about merit-based hiring. What do you say about that?
Well, I would imagine that, you know, merit-based hiring is a part of every process. Who says it's not? I mean, if someone doesn't belong in our department, we remove them. But the fact is, we do have a pretty stringent application process to make sure that we bring on the correct people. But it's really important that our department reflects the city, and I think it shows up in how we do our job every single day. You know, it's been shown, you know, over the years, certainly in business studies, that, you know, diverse groups, teams tend to make better decisions, and actually, you know, even in the private sector, they tend to do better.
You say it makes your force stronger.
It absolutely makes our force strong, and people have to understand it has to do with, you know, thought. You know, when you come from a different perspective, you're informing, you know, someone who's making a decision about a blind spot that they otherwise wouldn't know about, right. Which makes for better decision making.
Right. And Sharman just mentioned Boston is touted as one of America's safest cities, the lowest number of homicides since 1957. Yet, as we say in the presidential election, fear of crime is a major concern for voters. So how do you square that?
Yes, you know, one of the, you know, major things that we do is not only deal with crime, but fear of crime. And
right.
So that's why it's important for, you know, to be on the show today to remind folks that, you know, we are here to serve the public. We need people to come forward and communicate with us. Community policing is about building trust so we can understand.
Are you seeing more people communicate with you and more people cooperate with you in the public?
We are trying, as always, to make sure that we build trust so people will always do that. Probably in this moment, I can't say whether it's more or less, but the fact is we worry that it will be less when people are afraid to come forward.
Right.
That's why we say that it's, you know, your immigration status is not relevant when it comes to public safety. People fly here from all parts of the world to visit and vacation, whatever. We don't ask them those things, but the fact is if they're a victim of a crime, we want them to come to, we need them to come tell us.
We talk about homicides being down and the lowest rate since 1957, and that obviously that's pure numbers, but something like, for example, shoplifting. There's a spike in shoplifting. What's behind it? Do you know why?
Yeah, and so, you know, one of the good things about being able to drive down, you know, violent crime in a city, in any city, is that when you're able to get those numbers manageable because you have to prioritize your resources, then you'll be able to address other areas that you weren't. And you know, we're, you know, blessed in the sense that now we can actually prioritize and partner with the business community to address.
Because the violent crime is down.
Because violent crime is down.
You want to address more quality of life issues.
I don't know any city in America if violent crime is very, very high and there's zero shoplifting, nothing else going on that they're going to talk about, you know, not talk about violent crime. Violent crime, you know, it's loss of life. And so it is very important that we make sure that we do all we can to save that. And so we are working with the business community. We started a partnership with the Downtown Business Association and the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the DA's office, where we actually are communicating with multiple businesses. And through that communication, we're able to create some pretty strong strategies and find some common themes around who's doing this stuff. And actually, there's organized crime around some of these things as well. Right. And to make a dent in it. And as always,
you also talked about officers walking the beat as well. Are you doing more of that as well?
Well, that's also a part of what we do in general. We have a new initiative called our Community Interaction Teams, which is just officers that are walking in areas where we get public feedback about their concern or regarding crime and fear of crime, and they actively go out to build trust, talk to people to find out what they're nervous and worried about, and then we address it, whether it's through holding people accountable around crimes or more or less making sure that people feel you know, protected and safe in the communities that they're in.
Let's talk about the marathon with Commissioner Cox right after this break.
Yeah.